What's up, everyone? This is Ray Baguio, and you're listening to Digitally Matters, a podcast for anything digital that really matters to you and your business. Let's start the show. My special guest for today's episode is the head of marketing and business development at Eaton Square. Eaton Square is a cross-border mergers and acquisitions and capital service provider. I believe they're based in Australia. She's also a marketing strategist, a brand builder. She's got over 17 years experience in building brands under her belt. She's also the founder of Freelancing Philippines. This is actually how I first heard about her, and I connected with her ever since. But funny thing is, I haven't really talked to her until now. Joining me in this episode is Miss Catherine Quiambao.
Hi, Ray. Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me and for that very nice introduction.
Hey,
I'm
hey,
glad to
Kath.
be here.
Thanks, Kath. So, am I correct? Eaton Square is based in Australia?
It is, we do have offices across the globe, but our
Oh,
headquarters is in Australia.
I see. But you're not based in Australia, right? Or are you?
Nope, I'm based in Manila.
Okay, cool, cool. Aside from working for Eaton Square, do you also do some services or offer your services to other brands outside the company?
Well, right now, I'm working for Eaton Square full time.
Okay.
I do have some side projects here and there, like I like to do some experiments on LinkedIn for my own account and then
Mm.
try to learn from it and then implement whatever I can and whatever I see that's working in my current work. And
Mm.
like you mentioned, there's also Freelancing Philippines. I have long stopped being involved there, maybe
Oh,
for
okay.
about 3 years.
Mm.
But recently, in light of the pandemic, I'm really wanting to help in my small creative way by teaching some sharing my digital marketing know-how and creating small videos for those who are wanting to learn more about marketing. So that's kind of what makes me busy nowadays.
I see. It's a good thing you mentioned about experimenting, and you mentioned you're doing this on LinkedIn, right? Can you share to us or to me something about it? What you found out?
Yeah, so I'm someone who wants to continue learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I've taken up courses in the past, but when I started getting more active on LinkedIn, I realized that it's a great learning platform more than a networking or a hiring or a posting platform. For me, I use it for learning.
Okay.
I get a chance to connect with influencers, thought leaders in marketing, and I learn from just reading their posts and engaging with their audience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I get ideas for my own experiments. So I started posting my own thoughts on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
following and copying, things that I learned, and just checking the kind of engagement and reach that a certain post can get. So that's what I'm trying to do at this point. And for LinkedIn, it's really just you putting yourself out there. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very open and welcoming environment, and I think that helps. Learn from it. It makes it very easy to connect and engage with um, all the marketers out there, no matter where they are in the world.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that it's easy to put yourself out there on LinkedIn. Not really easy, but you said something about just put yourself out there on LinkedIn. Based on my experience, based on the people I talk to or talk to about LinkedIn, because I really love the platform as well. I've been getting a lot of clients or inquiries or connections through LinkedIn as well for many years. So I really love being engaged and being active on the platform. But there are others who are really scared or really hesitant to be active on LinkedIn because for the fact that first they don't know how, and second they feel like they'll be just copying what they what others are doing, or they feel like they're not really that an authority to be saying stuff or sharing the
Well,
insights. Yeah. What do you think about this? What's your idea about this?
well, those are normal. I
Mm-hmm.
had the same feelings before I started being active on LinkedIn. I'm like hesitating. I had this my I want to share you a little bit of backstory. So
Mm-hmm.
I have a to do on my notebook to engage with at least three posts,
Mm-hmm.
at least three times a week. So that was my initial plan because I was still hesitant and scared to post an actual my full actual post. So that's where I started. I
Mm-hmm.
started engaging, and I enjoyed talking to other marketers even through the comments. And then I noticed I started growing my following, and then I said I think I want to really do it and share some thoughts that I had. So I I'm not a fantastic and natural writer, so I really spent time creating that very first post. And I remember wanting to post that on a Friday, and then I hesitated,
Mm-hmm.
and then waited for maybe over the weekend, and then posted it again. And for some strange, I don't know, beginner's luck, that post really did well. It,
Okay.
I think, got 11,000 organic views. And I
Nice.
think that's a good one for my
Nice. Nice.
first post. And like what my friend says, it's a learning experience not to hesitate in the future. But it's not going to be that kind of engagement all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned to be okay with it. Like I don't really post and and expecting great engagement or great reach for that post. It's really more of me making the habit of putting myself out there and trying to contribute what I learned or what I experienced, or probably ask a question and then just engage with the people on the network. So that's how I started. And I would suggest for people who are trying to hesitate or who are still hesitating to start small, start with commenting on posts. And then when you're more confident, try to draft some short posts or reshare other people's posts, and you'll get the habit and you'll get more comfortable, and you'll you won't even notice, and you're already constantly posting on LinkedIn.
That's nice. Actually, I've been looking at your or seeing your post, and I really like how you create your content, not just your original content, but how you share other people's content and share your insights about it. Either you agree or have contrasting views about it. It's actually how you should be, from what I feel, that's how you should be engaging on LinkedIn. You don't just copy or agree all the time about what others are saying, even if they're the authority. And it's also interesting to, I was actually about to ask you as a follow up question in terms
Mm-hmm.
of your measurement, or how would you consider your engagement or your success, your content to be successful? Would it matter if you don't get any likes or any views, or but you already answered it, so it doesn't really matter to you, not much,
Yeah.
that a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are liking it, but it's more of a learning process to you and sharing what you've learned to people out there who would want it, right?
Exactly. And just to backtrack a bit,
Mm-hmm.
the thing that you mentioned earlier, I don't see myself an expert in any way. I would call myself probably an experimenter.
Okay.
And I think that's where that helps me be more comfortable in writing. It's not really assuming that I am um, an expert or a subject matter expert in one field, but for me, just voicing out the questions in my head, what I feel about it, and on LinkedIn, from what I noticed from other people's posts, it's really having a stand, having something to say, and having, of course, that's something has to be of value, and
Mm-hmm.
can't be just gibberish. But yeah, so that's how I see it. And whatever the results are, I'm really okay with it. How it's my way of like I said, experimenting and learning from that experience.
Wow, that's actually a good advice that we can share, or people should also understand or take away from this conversation. If they fear, or they have, they're hesitating when it comes to sharing or being active on LinkedIn because they're not an authority, they should
Yep.
change their mentality. Instead of considering themselves as the authority right away, think of it as like, it's okay to experiment and play around with how the platform would work for you, right? And see what works, and then
Exactly.
do that often. Okay. You mentioned a while ago about you listing down on your notebook what the to dos. So you're still using a
Yep.
notebook instead of the apps out there, the to do apps.
Yeah, I'm an old school kind of
Oh,
person.
okay,
I
okay.
still have my colored pens and
Colored pens.
notebooks.
Okay.
I have to-do lists for my work and journals for personal.
I see. I see. But do you have apps that you use? Do you have some?
For project management, I use Red Boost for my work and for delegating tasks
Oh, okay.
from the team and for freelancers I work with.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I that's the most frequent app that I use on a daily basis.
I see. Now I want to go into a certain topic, Kath. I know
Okay.
you're familiar with this topic, and you've been building brands for, or helping brands build their brand, right? So let's talk
Mm.
about branding or brand. Is there a difference between brand and branding?
Yes, and most people confuse the two,
Okay.
and I guess it's easy to confuse because of the name.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, brand is who you are as a business. So
No.
that is, for instance, if we're talking about the person, let's talk about Ray. So Ray is the brand, and your suit or the clothes that you're wearing, that's your branding. So I think that's a good analogy to start with.
Ah, okay. The whole idea, the idea that I have between brand and branding is your brand is determined by the people or market you serve. So you have little control of in this aspect. While branding and I think is about the messages, the materials, and the initiatives that you do for your business. So something you have full control of. Is that also does that also work?
Yeah, somewhat. You
Somewhat.
kind of got the branding part.
The branding part.
So
Okay.
branding, yeah. So branding is what you do to communicate who you are. So think about brand as your company or your DNA. It's the story of about. It's what your company stands for. It's what your customers remember about you,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not something that changes a lot. So that's the difference of brand. Branding, on the other hand, is your process of telling your brand story. It's how you wanna um, be seen out there. It's usually the more visible and the more tangible things that your consumers can experience or
I
can
see.
see.
Okay.
So it usually can be seen in your logos, your websites, your
Mm-hmm.
online efforts, your other marketing communications. So it helps tell your story as a brand.
Thank you, Kath. Okay, when we talk about brand or branding, well, when I look at LinkedIn or browse the news feeds or even look for content, most of the time I get analogies or examples when it comes to branding, how people or how companies are doing branding and establishing their brand. We always get the
Mm-hmm.
examples of Nike, Coke, or Red Bull, right? But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
how about local businesses? Not to say small, but local businesses, especially these days. How important is building a brand for local businesses these days?
Okay, so we are in very different times.
Mm-hmm.
So if you asked me last year, I would have answered differently. But during these times, it's I feel like we're all in survival mode, and that includes businesses as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm seeing businesses that are starting up by as simple as posting on their social media pages or their Viber pages, and you know they actually start their business from there, and that's okay.
Yeah, okay.
But eventually, you'd want to grow and be bigger, and that's the time where you have to think about your brand. So when you think about that, you'll the question you need to ask is, how can you stand apart or stand out from your competitors? What makes you
Mm,
different? What makes you unique? And that's where your brand comes in. So I would say during these times, it's really about your business surviving and continue sustaining the operations. We've seen a lot of companies pivot. For instance, the restaurants, which are mostly closed for the last couple of months, are now selling
mm,
their uncooked, their frozen meals.
mm,
And I think that's a great way to sustain your business. It might not be something that is originally aligned with how your brand is, but
mm.
it's something that you have to do, period. So I think during this time, I'd say brand can probably take a step back or a back seat,
Okay.
but again, it's something that you cannot remove from your list of things that to do. You always need to make sure that what to think about what can be your unique selling proposition, and what can be what story do you have to tell that would make people stick to your brand. So not just order from you one time, but why would they want to continue to be your customer?
That's actually a good advice. So, is it safe to say, although brand or establishing a brand can take the back seat for now, but they should
Mhm.
still be doing some branding for the business, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So your communication should still be aligned with who you are
Okay.
as a company. So
Okay.
you cannot, of course, do things that are unethical, or for quick wins that might hurt
Mm-hmm.
your brand in the long run. So you still need to think about that. So I guess the first advice that I gave is more for people who are starting their business right now during these times. But
Mm-hmm.
for established brands, I think that while you should think about how to pivot your operations and continue selling or continue operating during these times, you always have to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing, all the communications, all the messaging is still aligned with your brand.
I see. Well, I'm really learning a lot from your insights here. Just it's just a few minutes talking to you, and I'm really learning. I can just imagine what an hour would be talking to you about brand and branding. What learning experience can I have? I'm curious though. You've had 17 years doing or helping businesses with establishing their own brands or helping
Yep.
them out. How did you, aside from LinkedIn, which you just discovered recently, right? I mean, experimenting on recently when it comes to learning. Where did you learn
Mhm.
these things? How did you get to amass or gather this knowledge? Who are your influences? Who do you learn from?
Sure. So, well, after graduating from college, my
Mm-hmm.
work really is in brand marketing. So, I think that's
Ah,
where I established this passion for advocating brand.
I see.
And I've worked with the large manufacturing, the consumer companies here in the Philippines. And
Mm-hmm.
when I shifted to freelancing and discovered digital marketing and worked with smaller businesses, I kind of brought that experience with me, and it helped a lot, especially in supporting small businesses, because, like I said, you cannot forever forget your brand,
Mm-hmm.
um, regardless of the kind of industry that you're in, if you're big or small. You always have to make that a central part of your strategy. Now, to talk about my influencers, so I have a lot, but the top three I can think of right now is Dave Gerhardt. So he
Mm,
is
okay.
the CMO of Privy, a Shopify app. He's
Okay.
really out there sharing lots of his experience. He has a Patreon group where I'm part of, and I'm learning a lot from his copywriting skills, his style as a marketer,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of follow some of his teachings and try to test it out with the work that I have, and also for my personal experiments and personal branding tests on LinkedIn. So apart from Dave, there's also Chris Walker that I also found on LinkedIn, and he's great in terms of performance marketing, in terms of demand generation, and is also into organic initiatives and building your brand through organic means. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's Chris Walker. And then the third one is Noah Kagan. He is more fun. He's also a marketer, but he's also big into entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been following him for a while now. And yeah, so this three people, I try to make sure that I listen to their podcasts, I watch their videos, because really in marketing you can't stop learning. It evolves so quickly, especially during these uncertain times. And you have to be agile. You have to keep yourself abreast of what's happening, of what's working and what's not.
True.
And I really enjoy learning every day. So that's something that I guess is intrinsic in me.
Mm-hmm.
And apart from those three, I also learn a lot from other people that I engage with. I learn a lot from my colleagues, from reading, and also a book. I read a lot of books. So yeah, so I guess it's really always be learning.
Always be learning. Yeah, that's true. And I follow those people as well. The three people that you mentioned. And one thing I can say about these people though, or to mention, Noah Kagan. I follow and I watch his videos as well. One thing I like
Mm-hmm.
about him is he presents learning in a not so boring or serious way. He actually adds
Yeah,
fun into it, and he's okay with making a fool of himself. I'm not saying he's a fool or something, but
yeah,
being fun with it, and making funny faces or something. I like how he presents his content, whether it be video or text. I love learning from him as well, and the challenges that he posts for the
yeah.
audience. Yeah, I believe you also followed one of his challenges
I did. Yeah,
recently.
he has a great personality, I guess. And
Hmm.
sometimes, some people think he's arrogant, but really he's just being himself. And maybe some people can't take that. But to me, he's someone who is actively sharing his experience out there. And I think that's why he has a strong following.
Hmm.
And like you said, he makes it fun. He's a no nonsense, very practical guy. And yeah, that's what I love about him.
Okay, one last thing before I let you go, Kath. I have a lot of takeaways personally, and I can do these things moving forward after this talk. Now, but I want to hear it from you. If there's an advice or a tip that you can share with those who are listening to this episode, those who would want to establish their brand or help their business, what can you what can you give us?
I guess the thing that I can think of, just to make my advice timely, is
Mm-hmm.
that not to lose hope during this pandemic, and start being creative. I know it's a lot of businesses, a lot of people, a lot of freelancers are suffering, are struggling during these times, and I feel for them. And I guess my only advice is don't give up. Just keep trying different things, different ideas, things which did not work last year might actually work this year. Just keep an open mind and use your creative juices to try and see and experiment, what can work for you. Or maybe you have a skill there that um, you haven't tapped yet, and I think this is a good time to really learn more and
Mm-hmm.
upskill more.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess to end this, I just want to say that whatever your specialization is, if you're a marketer or not a marketer, it's always good to keep on learning, and you can learn many things that are free online. You can learn from your peers. You can learn from people like I've mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
who are who are making their content accessible online. So those two, be creative, and keep on learning.
True. And to those who would want to follow you or get in touch with you, where can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn just by searching my name, Catherine Quiambao, and I'm also on Twitter. My handle is Marketing Cat. Plus, you can also join freelance in Philippines if you're an aspiring freelancer, or you just want to connect with other freelancers. There's a lot of job postings out there, and we also try to share some skills training video where your people can learn.
So that wraps up our show. That's it for now, and thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you'll join me again next time here on Digitally Matters. This has been Ray Baguio, and until next time, ciao.